So how to find time to get shit done. So in this video, I'm gonna break down the exact strategies that I personally use to get shit done each and every single day. So let's dive in. So first thing, you have to remove the limiting belief on time. So a lot of people say there isn't enough time, or I'll do it tomorrow. And every time someone says tomorrow, that reminds me of the famous Rocky movie, when Rocky said to him, he's like, oh, tomorrow. He's like, there is no tomorrow. I think that's a very good quote to always fall back on. And the other thing people say is there isn't enough time. Well, I guarantee if you go onto your screen time right now on your phone, you have at least like 3 to 5 hours of screen time. So if you're trying to say there isn't enough time, it's not true at all. It's just simply that you don't know how to optimize it. The solution for that, for finding time, is right here. So it's what we call time blocking. And you can see my calendar there on the right. So I have that every single day, repeats Monday to Saturday. And on Sunday, I do rest, reset, recover. Basically what you want to do is you want to make your ideal schedule in your calendar. So you want to plan everything out. You want to plan your work times, your meals, if you do working out or cardio, etc. For me, I'm only doing cardio right now because I'm injured, and you want to stick to that every single day. So every single day you want to stick to that, and you want to write your tasks that you have to do on top of the actual schedule. So what you can do is in Google Calendar, you can create a new task and you can call it the name of whatever it is you have to do, right? And to make it different colors as well, I think is important, because as you can see from mine, we have the like purple bluish color, that's for work. Anything green is like health related. So we have eating, then we have walking. I have orange for personal development. And if I go out with someone like a business meeting or a friend, whatever, I always put that in yellow, and that's for relationships. So yeah, you want to block 90 to 120 minutes of zero distraction work. So during that time, you just want to turn off your Slack calls, and you don't want to do any browsing or any of that. You just want to dedicate that time 100% to working. So what I like to do is I like to put on either Brain FM or, some ambient track from an old video game I used to play, because that is scientifically proven to actually get you into something called flow state. And once you do that, then you just have one task that you're doing for that time. You go until you get it done. And if you get it done early, you always just move on to the next task, and you don't stop until that block is finished. And then when it's time to have a break, you don't just go on your phone or do something, because that's just going to spike your dopamine very quickly and it's going to instantly come down, right? So when you have a break, you want to do something like stretching or going for a walk or reading, because stretching, first of all, will boost your serotonin. Reading will reset your dopamine. And all of those things, your mind is going to think, okay, this is more boring than what I was doing before. So your mind is going to like working more than it will like resting, which is ideally what you want to train yourself to do, right? So inputs. So as Isaac Newton famously said, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So you want to control what music you're listening to, because if you're listening to rap music all the time or rock music, at the end of the day, that's ultimately what you're going to become. The Bible even says, as a man thinketh, so is he, right? So if you're listening to all that stuff about, drugs and women and all the rest of it, then ultimately that's who you're going to become. And if you want to become like that, then sure, be my guest. But me personally, I don't want to become like that. So I choose not to listen to that type of music. Instead, I like to listen to stuff that's actually going to build me up, stuff about, my purpose, or if it's motivational, if it's work related, or something that is actually going to better me in the long term, right? So next thing is phone. So when you're working, you want to put your phone, if you have a drawer on your desk, that's the best thing to do. Put it in that drawer and only get it out with intent. So let's say you need to put a card on an ad account or something, or you need to pay an invoice, you have to go on your phone, right? That is the only time that you should be getting at your phone during work. Every other time you try and reach for it, you're just building that habit of, oh, I'm getting bored, I'm just gonna go on your phone. Instead, what you should do is when you get bored, you should be thinking, okay, what do I have to do? And just do it. That's it. Because every time you do that, you're training your mind to persevere through the hard times rather than actually just reaching for the phone and reaching for that easy out, right? And then obviously it ties into doom scrolling. So if you're doom scrolling, then you won't have time for anything. Your dopamine's going to be fried. You won't have mental clarity because all you'll be thinking about is, oh, this last TikTok I watched, and you'll most likely have the music of that TikTok stuck in your head. But if you don't listen to that, and another thing I didn't add on here, but it's eating clean and actually having a good diet, making sure you're doing exercise, making sure you're nurturing your body, mind, and your spirit, because at the end of the day, we're a triune being made in the image of God. Yeah, you want to make sure that you eat very clean, whole foods, right? So you don't want to be eating any of that processed garbage in the supermarkets, because if you want good outputs, you have to have good inputs. And at the end of the day, whatever you eat is what your body uses to regenerate cells. So if you're eating McDonald's, you're going to get McDonald's cells. If you're eating whole, organic, clean foods, you're going to get whole, organic, clean cells, right? That's how it works. Next thing I think is very crucial, which a lot of people do, and I used to do this, I sometimes still do it, but it's watching videos when eating. So when you're watching a video when eating, right, you're doing the same thing essentially. You're giving your brain a huge spike of dopamine, and then it has to come down, right? So what goes up must come down. And the best thing to do is just eat in silence. I know it sounds insane, it sounds absurd, like, oh, you're crazy, but especially if you want to get work done, you eat in silence, and I guarantee you cut your eating time in half. Because all that time that you're on your phone, looking at messages, or you're trying to see a different video or stuff like that, right? All of that time you could have been used to eating. And what it does as well is it helps you be more mindful, more present, and you won't overeat because you actually be aware of your stomach when it says, hey, I don't feel like anymore, right? So just make sure you do that also. So the tools to use, so use Rise. So Rise basically tracks your time. It tells you what apps you're using at certain times, and it also gives you daily and weekly summaries. And as Peter Drucker, I think his name is, says, you can't manage what you don't measure. So if you don't manage where you're spending your time, then how are you supposed to improve it, right? Obviously Google Calendar, we spoke on that before. So you want to plan what you have to do the night before, and then you want to put it in Google Calendar, right? Physical notepad. So this is just if you want to, journal, or if you want to plan on there and you find it easier to do that, then you can also do that as well. Notion. So Notion, I think, is one of the best, if not the best apps to track everything. So what I do is I have a main document like on Notion, and I have pages with each different field, right? So I have one is like vision and purpose, one is personal development, one is e-com, one is health, right? So you want to have all those different sections inside your Notion, and then within those pages, you can also have separate pages inside. And it's just very good for keeping organized and keeping all of your notes and information sort of in one place. And the good thing about it as well is you can use it on both your phone and your laptop. So anything that you write on one transfers over to the other, and vice versa. So the one tab rule. So this is a rule I like to follow, right? So you only keep one tab open at a time, because at the end of the day, multitasking is going to dilute your focus. So let's say if you just focus 100% on the one task that you have to do at that certain time, instead of, okay, I'm doing this task, now my staff message me, I have to reply to them. Now a friend messaged me, I have to reply to them. Now a business partner messaged me, I have to reply to them, right? That's just taking all of that time away. Not only that, but it's also decreasing your flow state, which is going to stop the amount of work and also the efficiency of which you would have got it done if you just focused on one thing, right? So next we have automate and delegate. So anything that is repeatable, you want to delegate. So you want to get your VAs to do it, or if you want to hire 8 players, you get them to do it, right? But anything like this, you want to automate so that it frees more time for you to focus on the higher ROI tasks, right? So as this focus funnel says, eliminate, automate, and delegate, right? So that's exactly what your focus should be. But this is more sort of high level, so as you start getting staff and doing more numbers and stuff like that. So this is what I do every night before I go to bed, is I do something called a mind dump. So I just write down, all my thoughts and tasks that I need to do the next day. And basically what you're doing when you do that is you're clearing the processor. It's like on a computer, right? You have something called RAM. If you don't clear your RAM after you fill it up too much, or if you're trying to do too many tasks at once, eventually it's going to overload, and like sometimes your computer will slow down. If you don't clear what needs to be cleared, then your mind is going to get overloaded and it's just going to slow you down. So this is something that you should do. Just write down your task, or if you want to journal, if something happened, an experience, you feel like you have to write something that you learnt, write it all down, clear it, and you notice how clearer your mind feels after, which will allow you ultimately to focus and get things done. So the Pareto principle, right? So this also ties into a book that I'd recommend you guys to read. It's called 10x is easier than 2x. And it essentially talks about the 20% of efforts that produce the 80% of results. So everyone in business or in any field, right, they go through something called 10x jumps. And in order to do that, you have to realize what is going to produce you the most results, and you have to focus on that for that period of time, right? And once you obtain those results, then you have to remove that old identity. So it's something called ego death. So you have to let that old ego die, and you have to focus on the 20%, which is going to produce you the most results and allow you to 10x, right? So that's something that is very important as well. I just thought I'd add in this video. Time audit monthly, right? So you want to track how you actually spend time for 1 week. So every hour, you just set a timer. I know it might sound tedious, but trust me, it's worth it. And you basically just write down every single task that you're doing. So every hour when the timer goes off, you write down, okay, what was I doing this hour, this hour, this hour? And then after the week, what you can do is you can either take a photo of it, or you can have it in an Excel sheet, and you can upload that to ChatGPT, and you can say, based on this was my time audit for the week. Where was I spending the most time, and where can I optimize, right? And that's how you're going to improve your time optimization, which is a very, very useful skill. The last thing is reflections, right? So as you guys see right here, Proverbs 9:10 says, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. So if you don't reflect on everything that you do, then how are you meant to grow? Because if nothing changes, then nothing will change, right? The result is going to stay the same if you're just doing the same thing over and over again. So in order to change for yourself, for your business, for anything else, you have to make sure you reflect and also take action on those reflections. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you take action on what was actually said in this video. And be sure to follow me, hit that like button, subscribe. And if you guys are interested in one-on-one coaching, click the link down below and we'll see if you qualify.